Welcome to Ethiopia Today official channel. This channel is the product of our love for Ethiopia and its people. It is not affiliated to any political party or government, but we obviously support vision of a government that honors Ethiopia. We are so grateful that we have great fans like you behind us to achieve our mission for Ethiopia together. Thank you so much. Our today's presentation covers the following topics. U.S. policy towards Ethiopia and the Horn fails according to analysts. The 5 permanent UN Security Council members on Monday issued a statement saying their nuclear weapons were not aimed at each other and that a nuclear war could not be won. Ethiopia has inaugurated recently state-of-art public library, which is said to be among the top libraries in the continent of Africa. Sudan in difficult position after the resignation of its prime minister. The details are as follow. The U.S. government's misguided stance on the current situation in Ethiopia proves the failure of the Biden administration's foreign policy towards the Horn of Africa in general and Ethiopia in particular, according to Pakistani geopolitical analyst Sajid Nadeem. In an exclusive interview with INA, the analyst said Ethiopia has been an important country in the Horn of Africa in terms of ensuring peace and development. However, the incumbent U.S. government's position on Ethiopia in relation to the current conflict in the northern part of Ethiopia doesn't consider the country's long-standing key role to the peace and development in the region as well as the very reality, the existing situation. As a result of its hasty actions, neutrality and impartiality, the U.S. is losing its important ally in the Horn of Africa, he added. The U.S. policy is failing in the Horn. You see that Ethiopia was an ally of the U.S. The U.S. has lost its ally, Ethiopia. The U.S. foreign policy in Ethiopia has failed, it is not working. U.S. cannot maintain its neutrality, its impartiality to mitigate the Tigray conflict. Sajid further stated that the U.S. doesn't really care about democracy and human rights as long as its interests are fulfilled. This is what the U.S. is trying to meddle in the affairs of Ethiopia and the Horn in general. Democracy is not criteria for the intervention, for the U.S. has been supporting dictators too, so that they are just here not for upholding democracy, rather they have their interests, they want to have their influence in the Horn of Africa and in Ethiopia as well, he added. The important thing is that they do not have any space available for intervention, the Pakistani geopolitical analyst added. If policies in the Western are not in support of Africa, then Africans should have their own bodies like African Union and IGAD that should be alternatives to address African issues, Sajid suggested. The analyst said that TPLF will never come to rule Ethiopia again as its days are gone and has been rejected by the people of Ethiopia. Sajid also stressed the need for African nations to shun chances of foreign interventions by strengthening their ability to tackle challenges and creating effective and democratic continental institutions. The 5 permanent UN Security Council members on Monday issued a statement saying their nuclear weapons were not aimed at each other and that a nuclear war could not be won, according to Mail Online. We affirm that a nuclear war cannot be won and must never be fought, said the US, China, France, the United Kingdom and the Russian Federation. As nuclear use would have far-reaching consequences, we also affirm that nuclear weapons, for as long as they continue to exist, should serve defensive purposes, deter aggression, and prevent war. We believe strongly that the further spread of such weapons must be prevented. It comes at a moment of high tension between Russia and the US over Ukraine, amid fears that Moscow is about to launch an invasion of its neighbor, and as Washington eyes what it sees as China's growing regional aggression. US defense officials have repeatedly warned that Beijing's advances in weapons technology threaten leave America behind. The statement sets aside those differences to agree to prevent an arms race that would benefit none and endanger all. In so doing, they restate the famous Reagan-Gorbachev declaration from their 1985 summit in Geneva that a nuclear war cannot be won and must never be fought. The sentiment was welcomed by non-proliferation campaigners and arms reduction analysts, but several said the 5 nuclear-armed nations needed to go beyond words. As Daryl Kimball, director of the Arms Control Association, tweeted, "Bottom line, each of the N5 are to varying degrees upgrading and modernizing their deadly arsenals, the risk of a catastrophic N-war still too high, key disarmament commitments have not been kept, the nuclear danger is too high. All five must follow through on their rhetoric." At the end of last year, the Pentagon claimed China had increased its nuclear arsenal and could have at least 1,000 warheads by the end of the decade. And this week China signed a deal with leaders in Latin America and the Caribbean to deepen ties across almost all areas of society in what one analyst likened to a plot to take over the region. As part of the deal, Beijing has committed to supplying the region with civilian nuclear technology, helping to develop peaceful space programs, building 5G networks of the kind Washington warns will be used to spy on people, and to pumping in cheap loans and financing for elaborate development plans. China has even pledged to build schools and fund classes teaching Chinese language and culture, though such institutions have been criticized elsewhere for pushing state propaganda and limiting academic freedom. It comes off the back of decades of Chinese investment and development in Latin America and the Caribbean, which has seen hundreds of billions of dollars poured into the region to build critical infrastructure such as ports, roads and power plants in what many believe is an attempt to buy power and influence in America's backyard. There are absolutely ambitions for China to become the dominant influence in Latin America, Matteo Hader, a researcher at the Heritage Foundation, told the Washington Examiner. The statement was originally expected to be released during a major nuclear treaty conference due to begin on Tuesday at the United Nations. But the meeting has been postponed until August because of the COVID-19 pandemic. France, the People's Republic of China, the Russian Federation, the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland and the United States of America consider the avoidance of war between nuclear weapon states and the reduction of strategic risks as our foremost responsibilities. We affirm that a nuclear war cannot be won and must never be fought. As nuclear use would have far-reaching consequences, we also affirm that nuclear weapons, for as long as they continue to exist, should serve defensive purposes, deter aggression, and prevent war. We believe strongly that the further spread of such weapons must be prevented. We reaffirm the importance of addressing nuclear threats and emphasize the importance of preserving and complying with our bilateral and multilateral non-proliferation, disarmament, and arms control agreements and commitments. We remain committed to our Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty (NPT) obligations, including our Article VI obligation to pursue negotiations in good faith on effective measures relating to cessation of the nuclear arms race at an early date and to nuclear disarmament, and on a treaty on general and complete disarmament under strict and effective international control. We each intend to maintain and further strengthen our national measures to prevent unauthorized or unintended use of nuclear weapons. We reiterate the validity of our previous statements on detargeting, reaffirming that none of our nuclear weapons are targeted at each other or at any other state. We underline our desire to work with all states to create a security environment more conducive to progress on disarmament, with the ultimate goal of a world without nuclear weapons with undiminished security for all. We intend to continue seeking bilateral and multilateral diplomatic approaches to avoid military confrontations, strengthen stability and predictability, increase mutual understanding and confidence, and prevent an arms race that would benefit none and endanger all. We are resolved to pursue constructive dialogue with mutual respect and acknowledgement of each other's security interests and concerns. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed recently inaugurated Abrihot Library in Addis. Abrihot is Amharic word meaning enlightenment. Abrihot Library is one of Africa's largest public libraries, which can accommodate over 2,000 readers at a time. During the inauguration ceremony, Abiy stated that the Abrihot Library is the key to unlocking the nation's many untold histories and facilitating ways to create wealth. He also noted that knowledge is the way out of ignorance. Ignorance is darkness, and one who is in darkness cannot think rationally. So the library is a great opportunity to get out of ignorance. A nation is built by knowledge. We can prosper if we lay the groundwork for our children to understand our history and the meaning of freedom. The key to this is knowledge, as he indicated. The Prime Minister continued, "We can share the wealth and knowledge to the posterity that our forefathers and foremothers have passed down to us only when we have libraries like Abrihot. Such libraries are needed in every sub-city of Addis Ababa." He further explained that Ethiopia is one of the 18 countries in the world that have its own alphabet and is the only country in Africa with its own alphabet. Addis Ababa Mayor Adenech Ababi, on her part, stated that the 4-story Abrihot Library is the first of its kind in East Africa and was built under the initiative of Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed. The library is one of the top 10 libraries in Africa, she added. The library covers an area of 19,000 square meters and it has been built with a budget of over 1 billion Ethiopian birr, and it has a 1.5-kilometer shelf and can hold 1.4 million books. The library also has over 240,000 electronic books and 300,000 research papers. She also indicated that the library has a place for parents to read with their children, a children's reading and playing areas, adequate braille books for the blind, and a modern cafeteria and conference room. It has also 8 bookstores and an amphitheater. Prepared by Abdurazak Mohammed, the Ethiopian Herald, 2 January 2022. Finally, Sudan in difficult position after the resignation of its Prime Minister. Sudan's Prime Minister Abdullah Hamdok resigned Sunday after mass protests against a deal he made with the military following the October coup. Political analysts say that Hamdok's resignation is a blow to the country's political stability and hopes for a return to a civilian-led government. In a televised address to the nation, Prime Minister Abdullah Hamdok said that he was resigning to make way for another person to lead and called on comprehensive dialogue to end the political crisis that has engulfed the nation for 2 years. A Sudanese political commentator, Hafez Kabir, says Hamdok's resignation leaves the country in a difficult situation. Sudan will witness a new crisis because there are many military groups, there are many political groups, and their opinion is not the same. The military threatens Sudan's unity. There are many problems on the economic side, social side, so we want a new initiative, comprehensive solution that can save the situation in Sudan, he added. Kizito Sabala, an expert in diplomacy and international relations, says Hamdok's resignation proves that it's difficult to block the military from the country's politics. The transition in Sudan is very difficult. The military structure Bashir left means that structure is very strong, and therefore for Sudan to move forward, a lot of work must be done to ensure that they delink politics from the military, which is a long process that will take so many years. It also implies that any support that the military has been having through the good international standing of Hamdok is going to fizzle out, according to him. In October, army officers pushed out Hamdok's civilian-led government. Military Chief General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan defended the military action, saying it was to prevent the outbreak of civil war. Hamdok signed an agreement with the military rulers in November, but the Sudanese population questioned the Prime Minister's power after he was reinstated. Shakur Nayak too, a journalist and activist, says new blood is needed to lead the civilian side of the government. The political parties are still in an argument. They are not together. Now thinking of reforming their political parties, they want to come up with one national front so that they can clean their image with the communities and the public. But they do not trust the other political parties. The public right now are asking for a civilian government that should be formed from technocrats, not from political parties, he added. Sudanese youth continue to march in the streets against the military, and the protests are consistently suppressed through force. On Sunday, thousands marched demanding that the military get out of politics. According to Sudan's Central Doctors Committee, 2 people were killed. The military has been cited as saying it will permit peaceful protests and hold those responsible for violence accountable. So far, 57 people have been killed since the military seized power in October. The U.S. State Department's Bureau of African Affairs issued a statement on its Twitter page after Hamdok resigned, urging Sudanese leaders to set aside differences, find consensus, and ensure continued civilian rule. The United Nations Sudan representative, Volker Perthes, issued a tweet Monday, saying he regrets Hamdok's decision but respects it. Sabala says Sudan is at a crossroads and international pressure is required for the military to ease its grip on power and accept the country's need to move to a democratic phase. Thanks again. If you enjoyed our presentation, give us a like and share to your social contacts. And also don't forget to subscribe and hit on notification bell if this is your first time. By doing so, you are helping this channel continue producing this and similar news. Many thanks. May God bless Ethiopia and its people.